In 1998, I graduated Phi Beta Kappa summa cum laude, the outstanding graduating chemistry major from the University of Denver. I appreciated the time that individuals had invested to make these awards possible, but for some strange reason, they left me feeling really hollow on the inside, except for one. I had been a varsity cross-country skier for 4 years, never the top on the team, rarely top 3, but in those 4 years, I had never missed a race. My coach, Knut Neistad, thought it was worthy of acknowledging that, so he made up an award. He asked if he could have permission to give me this award at the banquet. He got a resounding no. There was too much time constraint on that event. So in a dark hallway outside of the awards banquet, he handed me this award. Nothing could have meant more to me. I felt full and I felt fiercely motivated. But of course, it was the more traditional accolades that led to graduate interviews. I'll never forget one of those interviews. It was a long, grueling 2 days of group interviews, and we were touring the chemistry laser labs deep in a basement when one of the professors pulled me aside, and she said to me, "Rachel, I know you have lots of graduate opportunities, but if you come here, you'll make at least $60,000 a year when you finish your PhD." I don't think she ever could have realized how hollow and leaden that made me feel inside. She's not alone. Educators across levels, parents, friends, peers, motivate learners by trying to get them to get the grade, make bank, or my personal favorite, get a steady job and just hope it has a good insurance plan. After that leaden day in the dark hallway, I gave up any traditional path to academia. I jumped off the deep end and since then tried to find my way through the cracks in the walls and through doors that were accidentally left open to being a scholar, to being a coach, and to being an instructor. I've dedicated my life to rethinking the way in which we motivate our students. 10 years of teaching general microbiology and advising microbiology majors led to a 2 o'clock in the morning eureka moment of passionate writing. And I wrote a vision, a proposal for a microbiology capstone course that would allow students to use their microbiology to help solve real, authentic Wyoming problems. I fought wars in order to be able to teach this course, so many barriers, and finally was able to implement the course. Meet the ladies of the resistance. They are pictured here with their Wyoming community partner. This is the Wyoming Medication Donation Program. They're a drug recycling program, and they take unused or outdated drugs, and either they incinerate them or they recycle them, getting them to clinics that can redistribute them to people who don't have insurance. The medication donation program also posited that their program would have a positive environmental impact, but they'd never done any studies on this. So the ladies of the resistance partnered with the program, and they were able to also partner with many wastewater treatment plants in many counties across the state. They were able to find that, in fact, because antibiotics were not being flushed down the toilet as much in areas that used the medication donation program, the antibiotic resistance was lower in those counties than in counties that didn't use the program. Since then, some of those counties have adopted the Wyoming Medication Donation Program. But our story does not stop there. The ladies of the resistance were so jazzed to take their message on the road to K through 12 schools around the state. Here, they're working with a class of students who the teacher said were almost entirely non-college-bound students. They were telling them about the medication donation program. Two of the girls in the class that I later found out would never engage in any class shot their hands up, and one of them described with great detail where you could find the drug drop box in her local city and why it was so important. The ladies of the resistance then took the students through many bacterial staining exercises, and they acted out the process by which antibiotic resistance genes are transferred from one bacterium to another. At the end of the class, I was so lucky. I was standing right next to the door, and the two girls went out of the door, and I could overhear them. And one said to the other, "Why can't school be like that every day?" And the other one said, "Yeah, that was blanking lit." And speaking of lit, go back in time with me to that day after my coach Canute had handed me that award. I had a fiery motivation, and I rode my bicycle to the ski wax room where there were skis that had not been waxed. And so I took my teammates' skis and I lovingly and caringly waxed every single one of those pairs. And I knew on that day that I would be a ski coach for the rest of my life. So as I was getting in the back doors of academia, I was also volunteering to coach UW Nordic's men's and women's team. We slowly grew from a small group to a group that won more than a dozen national titles. And in 2011, we were honored to be invited as the sole representatives of the United States of America to the World University Games in Turkey. Since then, my partner and I have been able to coach Team USA in the World University Games in Italy, in Slovakia, in Kazakhstan, and finally in Russia. And when we went to the Slovakia Games, we decided everything about our athletes' experience would be enhanced if we integrated curriculum. So we designed and developed a course, an action learning course, and we went ahead and made it about the gravest world problem. We said, what is going to happen to ski racing on an international level in the face of climate change? Our athletes teamed up, and they formed a team that calculated the carbon footprint of our entire event. Our economics team calculated what would be needed to offset our carbon emissions. And meet Sierra and Ben, now PhD students. This chemistry team decided to quantify the amount of fluorocarbon and hydrocarbon waxes. That's what we put on the base of our skis. They quantified that in different areas of the course in Slovakia. So every single day, they would race to exhaustion. And then every single night, when other athletes were resting, they would carry their sampling jars, and they would go and fill them up with snow from 4 areas: a hill, a flat, the start and finish area, and a control area. They had important findings because they found that the waxes accumulate the most in the start and finish area. This has major environmental connotations because oftentimes we put start and finish areas on top of water bodies, and so areas that are very ecologically sensitive. Since this time, many ski divisions have actually changed their regulations, and they don't allow the most toxic of these waxes to be utilized. So what did the athletes say about integrating curriculum into their athletics? Ben says, the integration of curriculum into athletics is greater than the sum of its parts. It's the synergy of curious minds. It's getting up early and going on morning runs and reveling in the sweat of our body just as we revel in the stimulation of our minds. It is an earnest, forthright inquiry into the world around us. It is the integration of mind, body, and soul. I believe this is what has changed my life, my goals, and my dreams. Meet Elise. In this picture, Elise was skiing in 3rd place at the World University Games relay. Surrounded by only Olympians and World Cup skiers, Elise, at the same time, was also invested in a full qualitative research study interviewing athletes to get international perspectives of climate change. When Elise is asked about integrated curriculum, she says it frees learners from their learned shackles. It allows them to be free to pursue their passions both on and off the race course. When we immerse learners in these authentic, real, active learning environments, and we allow them to solve problems, it changes things. It allows them to value making change instead of making dollars. Instead of wanting to get the grade, they want to get a sexy enough mind that they can solve these problems. Instead of watching the time tick away, they wish that they had a time turner so that they could do more, be more, and contribute more. It is an engine that is not only lit, but it knows that it can. So why don't we redesign all learning landscapes to center on the world's problems, to be active and meaningful and engaged? I think that there are many reasons for this. But one important one is that we need to change what we tell learners about trusting themselves. For 20 years, peer-reviewed literature in psychology has supported the hypothesis that most people are, in fact, overinflating their confidence in their abilities. This, called the Dunning-Kruger effect, leads to narratives such as thinking you can, but being unskilled and unaware of it. This work, done by many researchers, has set the stage for valuing students' self-assessment. But at the same time, if we believe these narratives, then what it posits is that we cannot trust ourselves, that learners cannot trust themselves to achieve what they think they can. It also shows that those who are most skilled tend to be the most humble. And that too leads to narratives that we can't trust ourselves, that instead, perhaps we should ask someone who knows better. Perhaps our parents know better. Or perhaps that professor in the dark, leaden hallway knew better. Over the last few years, I have been deeply honored to join a research team of interdisciplinary scholars. We have gathered more than 25,000 competence measures and over 4,000 paired competence and confidence measures, and our data support another hypothesis. The hypothesis that learners are adequate self-assessors, and that as groups, we are really quite good at this stuff. So if we take the connotations of our work, it leads to new narratives that we can trust ourselves to know what we deeply, passionately want to change in the world. And if we trust ourselves to do that, then we will be able to make that change. So if a group of like-minded people work together with an idea of changing the world, we're most likely to be able to make that change. So work with me. Together, we can shift student motivation from making dollars to making change. Thank you.